Hello again, YouTube. I am the Skin Shifter. This is another Vertical Live. Hi, John. Thank you, buddy. Jesus said to those with the least to give, gave the most. Thank you. I know that those are expensive for you. So yours mean a little bit more to me, and then you can call me Shaggy Jar. It's not about that. I didn't even realize that those people were calling me Shaggy because you'd said it. You can call me whatever you like. I left Shaggy. My name was always Shaggy, Philolite. So if people wanted to misunderstand that Shaggy was an adjective and not a noun, not a proper noun, certainly, if people wanted to misunderstand, they were welcome to misinterpret what I was saying. So if you want to call me Shaggy, you can call me Shaggy. It's not a big deal. Never bothered me. I told you that it was going to be weird to people in the future, but that I knew who you were talking to, and I'm the only person that you are talking to when you refer to Shaggy. And if people want to make themselves a part of that, they could kiss my ass. Because you're my friend, you come to my show a lot, you support me financially, and you do listen. Everybody processes things at a different speed, okay? Blue, if you're out there, not mad at you. I'm not. This has been, for as long as I have been doing it, the way I teach. You are all family to me. If you have ever spent money on the channel and not used that money to try to undermine what I'm doing, which you've never done, Jarchoko, then you never step outside the reciprocality family circle. You're family. You and I, we're the same. If you listened to last night's show, you heard what I said. I didn't know you were there. Someone asked me what it would be like if I woke up black. I said it wouldn't be all that different. It might not be worse. Because I was listening at the time, I was listening live, reacting live to my favorite band's new record. Hours after it was released, so whatever. And I didn't put it in the title because I'm not here to farm the algorithm, I'm here to get work done. You and I, we're family, okay? I was raised to believe, talking to Jar Choco and I'm talking to Blue, I was raised to believe that this United States believes in its soul that we are all created equal. Okay? I was raised to believe, okay? I was raised to believe that in the future that I exist in, little black boys and little black girls and little Latina children, little Latin children, and little Asian children. Asia is a very large landmass in the minds of the West. And little French children, and little German children, and little Spanish children, and little Italian children, and little British children, and little Welsh children, and little Cornish children. I'm being specific on purpose. And little Russian children, and little Irish children, and little Scottish children, and little Finnish children, and all of the Scandinavian children, and all of the children born and existing to become adults in these United States would be judged and are judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin or their respective genitals. I am not angry at you, Jar Choco. Blue, if you're listening. I have been saying in your presence for minimum 2 years, regardless of how long your presence has been here, and I am not unaware of the 6 months, Blue. I am not unaware that today is my 1-year anniversary of having asked Rachel to marry me. But if I am describing you, then I am talking to you because I am a solutions-oriented person. Okay? I'm not just here to rant. I'm trying to reach toward a solution. And when I start to crash out, it's because the people I'm speaking to aren't appreciating the immediacy of finding a solution, the immediacy, the urgency. I do not have a guaranteed long life ahead of me. None of us does. I spent 30 years with my mouth shut because I thought that you guys had it under control, because I was raised by unloving parents and grinding, indescribable poverty. So I trusted you guys. And then I came to you with my hands in my pockets and I said, I have ideas. I have a good voice. I am a good reader. I am a good speaker. I am a thoughtful and caring, kind, loving, and magnanimous person. Allow me to present myself and give myself freely to you, asking nothing in return ever. And that is routinely walked on by the people who are closest to me. Which means that I am not the only person that this happens to. This means that you are conditioned to treat people this way because people have treated you that way. So I am not angry at you. I am angry that I am the one who takes the sticks and the stones for it. I am angry that people ask me what's happening instead of shutting the fuck up. I am fucking speaking. I know that I am loved, but what you don't understand is that unconditional love does not mean unconditional forgiveness, and forgiveness does not mean unconditional space to do wrong again. Forgiveness can, in fact, mean closing that door forever. And I'm not here to close doors. I say it all the time. What do I say? All night long while I'm playing 7 Days to Die. I hate doors. I hate doors because they have the implication of locks. And locks are designed to keep people out. And in a community where no one wrongs one another, doors are unnecessary entirely. Because people won't go where they don't belong, and people won't be doing what they're not supposed to. Forgiveness does not equal access. That is correct, Travis. That is what I said. Hello, Jax. I hope that I didn't misinterpret what you said, and I hope you weren't being funny, and let me rephrase that. I hope I did misinterpret what you told me the other day, or in the comment the other day. I'm glad to see you, pal. I hope I did misinterpret that. I hope that you were being funny. That you should have put quotes. Yes. And that's the other thing that I'm trying to explain to Jarchoko and to Blue if they're listening. I am spinning a lot of plates that are a lot of other people's sanities, including your own. But that is the definition of madness. You guys got to start treating me with a little more delicacy. I'm on the edge of an emotional breakdown at all times. And I have a lot of work that makes as much money as this that could leave me away from here. And there are people who need me. Whether the passersby get it or not, I don't care. It's not about them. You didn't offend me, Sir Jags. My dad used to beat the fuck out of me. So I didn't know what I was supposed to say. You didn't offend me. There are rules for a reason. You need to put quotations when you're making a joke and you're putting words in somebody else's mouth. Because you use the pronoun I. You began that sentence with the pronoun I. Sure, every dad I verbally abuse you frequently. Verbal abuse is not actual abuse until it's the implication of violence to change your behavior. Telling you that you're a stupid ass because you dropped that wrench is not abuse. It's just venting. I'm thinking about a lot. It's how adult men used to speak to one another. Jarchoko, focus on that meeting. You don't have anything to apologize for, Sir Jags. What I'm saying is that I didn't know how to respond. So there's nothing to apologize for. You haven't offended me. You haven't crossed some line. It's just like I'm trying to take the opportunity to teach you guys, because teaching moments are all around us, and you guys have a script for what you can learn from. And you have this video to click back in and rewatch in the future. And you can hit that ask button and say, hey, when was he talking about? And it'll tell you, and you click that number, and you can only watch those few minutes. Abuse can be funny. So anyway, I wanted to listen to a few songs because I need to go to sleep, but I am insomniac. I read an article today. You want to see something? When I talk to you about psychology stuff, I talk to you about what's going on inside my mind. I'm always weeks, months, or years ahead of at least psychology publications, which means psychology journals. Look at this. work. So maybe he clicks back in, and maybe Blue is here. Let me show you something real quick. Okay. So I was reading an article about this. I sent it to Rachel this morning. I could have just showed you the article, but whatever. In psychology, there's something known as the Zeigarnik effect, named after a Lithuanian Soviet psychologist, Bluma Zeigarnik, postulated that people remember unfinished interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. In Gestalt psychology, the Zeigarnik effect has been used to demonstrate the general presence of Gestalt phenomenon, not just appearing as perceptual effects, but also present in cognition. The Zeigarnik effect should not be confused with the Ovzionkina effect, an urge to complete tasks previously initiated, etc., etc. My insomnia is because you guys blue ball me every time I go live. Have been for years. And I said, look, bro. Or he goes, neither was the first commenter. And I said, look, bro, you are not Galahad. And he goes, well, neither are you. And I said, but I am at least Percival. That's fucking clever if you know anything about anything. Reddit can't handle these nuts. They too big. They smell too damn good. I guess there was an easier way to do that, wasn't there? So anyway, you guys aren't doing a very good job of listening to the things that I'm saying over time, or in any particular section. Stop apologizing. You are not working in a customer service position. You are a customer. Stop apologizing. Stop apologizing, period. Stop saying that you're sorry, because no, you're not. You have not been left miserable. And stop saying that you apologize. Stop saying the word I apologize. Never use that phrase. That word, apologia, in Greek means I explain. No, you're not. What you're not doing is explaining and preparing to change your behavior and face public judgment. It's just fucking not what you're doing. Stop saying the word. Change the behavior. My mother used to beat my ass. She used to say, if you're going to apologize, you have to know what you've done wrong, what you're going to do about it, and how you're never going to do it. And then you say you're sorry. Are you a stupid ass, Robin? What's it look like, Ice? Do you have eyeballs? You realize that in the time that it took you to type that, you could have just scrolled back to the fucking beginning, right? Could have just clicked on my work and looked. It said typing with your fucking eye or your fucking fingers. My dad used to say, if you have to ask the question, you're too stupid to absorb the answer. Can't figure it out for yourself. Atheism is for stupid people. Atheism is a religion for stupid people. It's a cult of personality built around other atheists. It's the most ridiculous thing in the whole world. I can't give you trauma from your father. You don't know what trauma means. You don't need to speak to me any longer. Atheism is a religion for stupid people. It's a cult of personality built almost entirely around Richard Dawkins at this point. And you have to be a stupid person to like Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins isn't even a good biologist. Well, why is existence a mountain? What does that mean, SBC? We are, as far as we can tell, the pinnacle of biological evolution, certainly in our neck of the universe. But what is that pinnacle when it comes to the scale of the universe? What is it? What does that even mean? Do you think that atheists think that there is no higher power over humans? Is that what you're trying to articulate, SBC? Instead of insulting someone, why don't you just state your premise? You know, I don't have to let you rephrase either. I could insist that you explain what you fucking mean. Which is what I did. I asked you a very deliberate question that you then didn't answer. I don't talk to illiterate people. I don't think octopuses have brains capable of passing down knowledge anyway, and they most certainly don't have speech. So, Henry O'Manley, tell me that you haven't engaged in the first psychological text. Philosophical, for that matter. You absolutely need to speak in order to teach. It's not what atheism is. No, you can't teach an animal how to do something. You can condition an animal to respond in a specific way to stimulus. Okay, but your implication doesn't address the questions, SBC. Hello, Cindy. It's not teaching. I just said what it is. It's conditioning. Conditioning and teaching are different. They're different words. Otherwise, we would use the one word. Teaching is the older word. Yes, they are. Nuh-uh. 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 That's your argument, is nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. Can't admit he doesn't know what the words I'm saying mean, so he just goes to the third grade. Nuh-uh. I can't imagine Israel or Palestine playing in any kind of tournament that I give a shit about. I see the world through bloodshot eyes. I see the world through distant lies. I see the world will never compromise. I see there's time to rearrange. Help me, Jesus, help me clean my wounds. And he said, hey, God, heal that guy. His soul becomes a bit of mine. He said it happens every time. Knock it down. And that's how the story goes. And the end of 1,000 no's. I'm all over you in time. My mind is changing. Oh, knock it down. Now come black gives me a heart attack. And the silence makes it deadly. There's a little kill with simple will. There'll be the fall fast and steady. It's a big Jesus, help me clean my wounds. He said he got healed that guy. He said soul becomes a bit of mine. He said it happens every time. Knock it down. And that's how the story goes. In a land of 1,000 no's. I'm all over you in time. My mind is changing. I'm slow and tired. Regular eyes, little bloodshot eyes. But I keep folding when I'm higher. Help me, Jesus, help me clean my wounds. He said he got healed, that guy. The bleeding soul becomes a better mind. He said it happens every time. Knock it down. And that's how the story goes. The land of 1,000 no's. Bleeding sins and our sins are always fading. Oh, fading. Oh, fading. Oh, fading. Oh, knock it down, knock it down. Knock it down, knock it down. Oh, knock it down, knock it down. Oh, knock it down. drinking drugs up. The one takes out to hell, the behind. There's nothing left to sell. Oh, ain't nothing left to sell. I like this song. This isn't what I was gonna play, but that trees my blood. The vengeance on we're saying dead ends and lost hope. Keep running through your veins. Oh, running through your veins. Oh, so high and then I fell. Oh, I stopped the ringing of my funeral bells. Loss of oneself inside the wheel of doom, genocide is coming way too soon. Oh, way too soon. Not desire the strength of one's demise, broken, strung out. Here, wave yourself goodbye. Oh, goodbye. Oh, so high and then I fell. Oh, stop the ringing. Oh, so high and then I fell. Oh, can't stop the ringing of my funeral bells. Oh, so high and then I fell. Oh, can't stop the ringing. Oh, so high and then I fell. That's hard. Oh, can't stop the ringing of my funeral bells. I wish Jesus would stop jerking off. Just get it over with. That was Funeral Bell by Black Label Society. Anybody who'd know the tune. I didn't really do justice to it, but cool song. See if I can fuck this up by trying to be Lars. I don't know how to count Lars yet. I have only listened to Lars in a real way for like, what, 6 weeks? No, that can't be right because I don't have access to FL Studio anymore, so maybe 4 months. Boom, boom, bow, special girl out there in the world that this one is for. She said I hadn't played it in a while, so that was a request if I'd ever heard one. I'm gonna fuck it up because my voice is trash right now, but... Hey, Richie. I may not try to do the drums, but I'll do my best. So close, no matter how far. To be much more from the heart. Together, just in who we are. And nothing else matters. Never opened myself this way. Life is ours, we live it our way. Oh, these words I don't just say, and nothing else matters. So I seek and I find in you, and every day for us something new. Open mind for a different view, and nothing else matters. Never cared for what they do, never cared for what they know, but I know. So close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are, and nothing else matters. Never cared for what they do, never cared for what they know, and I know. It's hard to remember to put my throat in the right position when my hands are doing this. Never opened myself this way. Life is ours, we live it our way. Oh, these words I don't just say, and nothing else matters. Trust I seek and I find in you. Every day for us something new. Open mind for a different view, and nothing else matters. Never cared for what they say, never cared for games they play. Never cared for what they do, never cared for what they know, but I know, yeah! I didn't break it. It took me homelessness to figure out how to do that. It's right on the edge of my voice cracks. So close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are, and nothing else matters. Hope you're listening, John. You don't even know that song. She said the coolest thing ever to me tonight.
What'd she say?
I just had laying in the room. It was The Grudge from Lateralis 2001. And she starts listening and she goes, that sounds just like Tool. And I was like, okay. And she goes, I don't know, like maybe 2002? And I was like, yeah. That's right, Lateralis.
I'm learning.
You don't have to have heard the record to know what they sound like. That's called cultural literacy. If I wanted a comedy act, you would have been my opener, but no blood joins this earth, and quickly is subdued through constant pain, disgrace. The young boy learns their rules, and time the child draws in. This whipping boy done wrong, deprived of all his thoughts. The young man struggles on and on, he's known who will vow one to his own. They never from this day his will they'll take away. Yeah. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never be, never see, won't see what might have been. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never free, label me, so I dub the unforgiven. This one's for you guys. They dedicate their lives to running all of else. He tries to please them all. This bitter man he is. Throughout his life the same. He's battled constantly. This fight he cannot win. The tired man he no longer cares. The old man then prepares to die regretfully. That old man here is me. Yeah. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never be, never see, won't see what might have been. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine doing what I've shown. Never free, label me, so I dub the unforgiven. You need a whole dick, whatever your name was. Not even a real person. Yep, I'd like to see any one of you chuckle fucks do half as well. My dick. Read your mother's ass, Seth. What I felt, What I've known, never shine through in what I've shown. Never be, never see. Won't see what might have been, what I've felt, what I've known. Never shine doing what I've shown. Never free, never me. So what of the unforgiven? Never free, never me. Goodbye, perplexed. So what of the unforgiven? I didn't ask. You label me, I'll label you. So I dub the unforgiven. Label free, never me. So I dub the unforgiven. You label me, I'll label you. So I dub the unforgiven. Never free, never me. This one's for Bloom. Once there was this kid who got into an accident and couldn't come to school, but when he finally came back, his hair had turned from black into bright white. He said that it was from when the cars had smashed it so hard. Once there was this girl who wouldn't go and change with the girls in the change room, but when they finally made her, they saw birthmarks all over her body. Couldn't quite explain it, they'd always just been there. But both girl and boy were glad, 'cause one kid had it worse than that. When there was this guy whose parents made him come directly home right after school, and when they went to their church, they shook and lurched all over the church floor. You like that? They couldn't quite explain it, they'd always just done that. do fills? I can do fills
You're
on the
doing
kick.
so good. Big improvement.
Mama, she has taught me well, told me when I was young. Says, son, your life's an open book. Don't close it for it's done. The brightest flame burns quickest. That's what I heard her say. The sons I told to matter, but now must find my way. Let my heart go. Let your sun grow. Mama, let my heart go. It's funny, as soon as I can hear myself, it becomes whisper voice real quick, doesn't it? It like drops way down in volume. Thank you, baby.
I don't know how to pull it out.
I can't actually do this riff, but that's a fun. After 7 days, God was quite tired, so God said, let there be a day just for picnics with wine and bread. He gathered up some people he had made. He made it blankets and laid back in the shade. The people sipped their wine, and what with God there, they asked him questions like, do you have to eat or get your hair cut in heaven? And if your eye got poked out in this life, would it be waiting up in heaven with your wife? God shuffled his feet and glanced around at them. The people cleared their throats and stared right back at him. Do you know the difference in a diviner or prophet and an insane person? So he said, once there was a boy who woke up with blue hair. To him it was a joy till he ran out to warm air. He thought of how his friends would come to see. Would they laugh or had he got some strange disease? God shuffled his feet and glanced around at them. You didn't like that very much, did you? The people cleared their throats and stared right back at him. It's gotta be weird to see somebody on YouTube who is completely unafraid of this camera, isn't it? It's gotta be weird to see no sign of fear in his face, hasn't it? The people sat waiting out on their blankets in the garden. But God said nothing. So someone asked him, beg your pardon, but not quite clear on that which you just spoke. You notice some similarity between God and the person you're watching? Is that a parable or a very subtle joke? God shuffled his feet and glanced around at them. The people cleared their throats and stared right back at him. Not afraid of you guys. I don't want your praise. I'm unafraid of your scorn. I'm unimpressed by your shame. I understand that an impression is what stamps leave and brands. I can't hold the note because I was played on a bass. With a little bass solo there at the end is great. I love this song. What is it that makes me just a little bit queasy? There's a breeze that makes my breathing not so easy. I've had my lungs checked out with x-rays. I've smelled the hospital always. Doom-ba-doom-ba-doom-doom. Someday I'll have a disappearing airline. Someday I'll wear pajamas in the daytime. Whoa, times when the day is like a play by Sartre. Boom, ba doom, boom, 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 boom. When it seems that everything's in perfect order. Boom, ba doom, boom, 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 boom. I gave the doctor my description. He tried to skip to my prescriptions. Doom, ba doom, ba doom, 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 doom. Someday I'll have a disappearing airline. Someday I'll wear pajamas in the daytime. Whoa, afternoons will be measured out, measured with coffee spoons and extravagant in T.S. Eliot. Maybe the things to the playback. Boom, ba doom, boom, 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 boom. I could change the test results that I will get back. Boom, ba doom, boom, 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 boom. I've hatched this, I'm leaving in Best Buy. I've heard the rattle in my bronchi. Someday I'll have a disappearing airline. Someday I'll wear pajamas in the daytime. Oh, afternoons will be measured with coffee spoons and T.S. Eliot. Boom, ba doom. Afternoons will be measured with coffee spoons and T.S. Eliot. Boom, ba doom, boom, boom, ba doom, boom, boom, ba doom, ba doom, ba doom, ba doom, boom, boom, boom. I would like to just Read the poem. Why is... Give me my fucking cursor back. Once there was this girl who... I like to go on camping trips. You step right out in nature. You forage in the forest like a primate, using shopping tools instead of hot plates. There to the finger, so you're not a wild beast. You can hear the noises in the nighttime. They don't get to keep a certain bedtime. They are the shapes of my body, leftover parts from the apes and monkeys. Sometimes when I lie awake, I hear the rainfall on my tin flap. I think of all the insects that are sleeping and wonder if the animals are dreaming. Seeing the shape of my body, leftover parts from the apes and monkeys. I lived this song. In the days of the caveman and mammoths and glaciers, bugs and trees, you're your food then, no pajamas or doctors. My heart goes out to the people of Nepal and Tibet right now. I cannot believe nobody's in my chat talking about it. The thing of technicolors. Actually, was come back from the A stage. Like the suit inside the suitcase. Seeing the shapes of my body, leftover parts from the apes and monkeys. In the days of the caveman, the mammoths and glaciers, bugs and trees, you wear your food then, no pajamas or doctors. Days of the caveman, the mammoths and glaciers, waves and trees were your food then, no pajamas or doctors. I'm not actually going to do that one. My doctor told me that it was time for me to have my x-ray. Of course, I had many nightmares about that fatal day. The room was dark and my skeleton was floating on the wall. My voice trembles down inside me. I'm trapped way down in my body. And there all I stand before me. Something's out of place and my mind's eye is missing from my body. It's there, but I can't see where. You think your fingers, what do fingers really mean to me? They can actually look them up in the dictionary. The digits, and technically they're known as the phalanges. Our minds connected up inside me, lie down deep inside my body. Are you ready for me? When something's out of place, when my mind's eye is missing from my body. No, it's there, but I can't see where. I'm like by my own body. I'm not a Logan's, I struggle away inside me someday. But I can drop this motion that I'll be left with, and now. Mind is like to die before me, way down deep inside my body. Why are you standing from me? I did that one. And something's out of place when my mind's eye is missing from my body. I know it's there, but I can't see where. I know it's there, but I can't see where. I was able to hold a long note with that one at the beginning. And I was able to get the whatever it was. I was able to do it without losing it on my left hand. Yeah, don't spoil it, Rachel. Running into you like this without no warning. You sip of tequila in the morning. Try to keep my food down. Down in the aftertaste that you left. And now that you're not around, I might just have to write this. That's hard. That swing, I've never. You can just breathe and we're not in the same room. Now you're right, I'll just mosey to the bathroom. Now you'll buy like a summer vacation. The earth you left me, TV, movies, and a messy kitchen. This one's to Megan Newman. I think I'll disappear now. Slip out sideways just for a while. But until then, I'll stay in and sleep late, excuse me. I'll buy a fast car and travel faster from here. There's a beach I haven't seen since the last year. It's far, but I like night drives. This makes it nicer when I do arrive. And I think I'll disappear now and slip out sideways just for a while. But until then, I'll stay in and sleep late, excuse me. I listened to this song a lot in 2005, can you tell? Now how to miss me. Aren't you gonna even say one thing to me anymore? Anymore. I can just about forget that how it was then. Arrived to your farm on the weekend. I've seen swimsuit magazines. I've seen the tequila first thing in the morning. And I think I'll disappear now. Step outside sideways just for a while. But until then, I'll stay in and sleep late, excuse me. Aren't you gonna miss me? Aren't you gonna even say one thing to me anymore? You graduated from me. Aren't you gonna even say one thing to me anymore? One thing to me anymore. Oh. This is the one though. How does the dark know what direction south is? And how to tell his wife from all the other ducks? You can cut a chicken's head off and it'll keep on running and twitching. Everything seems planned out. Everything seems nicely planned out. When the human race come and smack your face, how come all my body parts so nicely fit together? All my organs doing their jobs with no help from me. No. A person pulls a spider's leg off and watch it keep on moving and twitching. Well, everything seems planned out. Everything seems nicely planned out. When the human race comes smack your face, Satan lives there. In your voice, a grain of air. How come I'm a stoking, smoking, smoke that I spit out? How long can I my teeth? And I wake up when I cough. Working for the yen and night long. But I will keep on running and wishing. And everything seems lined out. Everything seems nicely planned out. A human race come and smack your face. I might be dead, but I'll kick your head. Hurts my wrist. I'd have to. That's hard too. So, I'd have to learn that one. If I wanted to actually write 16 notes on the hi-hat, I'd have to learn that. Oh, this is my favorite song in the record, actually. When I go out with artists, they talk about language and the cubist and the dadaist, and I try to catch their meanings and keep up with all of the martinis. I don't know which should be my favorite paintings. If I could see all the symbols and not like what they mean, maybe I could meet the artist and get to know them personally. With the artist. I go to galleries and not be too concerned with all the glass. A cup of coffee, and I'd find my surroundings quite amusing. And now ask me which were my favorite paintings. If I could see all the symbols, unlike what they mean. Maybe I could meet the artist, get to know them personally. They'll defend the TVs, all the eyes will be first plain. Scotch or whisker, Van Faddock, Van Levitt, the whole single malt family. The artists of the future will cook up new things in different nomenclatures, and they'll stand among the pictures. But they will sing and laugh and quote from scripture, and they'll go home, they'll dream of brilliant paintings. If I could see all the symbols, unlike what they mean. Maybe I could meet the artist, get to know them personally. If I could see all the symbols, unlike what they mean. Maybe I could meet the artist, get to know them personally. That last one was hard. But this one I wanted to do for Rachel, because I thought she would like this one. She knows the future like the palm of your hand. She reads the past like the lay of the land. The first time she knew me, she saw right through me. Some gods in a cage and her head. And she said all the years that have come to pass, and all the years that shall be, I see here right before me.
She said her visions were bane in her life. She could not control them, they kept her up nights. No, what's some kind so they haven't been drinking. She knew things that cut like a knife. And she said all the years that have come to pass, all the years that shall be. I see here right before me. Now, boom, 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 boom. Shall there be birthdays and great tidal waves? Can she see back to the dinosaur days? Has she foresee just by squinting at me? And can she see me naked in her mind's eye? What does she think when she foretells the disease? Would she keep it secret if death stood before me? What could some gods hold and were reserved hold, and can I escape what she sees? And she said all the years that have come to pass, and all the years that shall be, I see right before me. I see before me. Boom.
This is a fun song.
Once there were two knights and maidens. They'd walk together out in the gardens in all kinds of weather. The knights always pastored the maidens to love them together out in the gardens, and they could watch each other. The maidens had other plans for the two knights. They'd give them potions, make them see dreams in light. They took the potions gladly. They laughed at their visions, but outside the garden, tigers smelled them together. The maidens had other plans for the two knights. They'd give them potions and make them see dreams and lights. Knights only laughed at the tigers. They thought they were visions. Out in the garden, the maidens watched them together. Nah, but for the 2 nights. Ah, but for maidens who gave to them dreams and lights. They wouldn't quit pestering them for sex, so they fed them to lions. It's a good song.
All right. This one's for y'all. Still, this one is for the passerby. It's for my. It's for the people who say I'm their friend and that they love me and their favorite guy. You, just Peach.
Pretty good.
I don't even like peaches.
Pretty good.
That's good. It's tasty. Now do big. Maybe I should dick max during this one. You heard of cooter maxing?
What is that?
You never heard of cooter maxing?
No, what is dick maxing?
Well, dick maxing isn't a thing yet, so you haven't heard of cooter maxing?
No.
That hasn't made it across your... Okay, cooter maxing is where chicks will wear tight pants and they'll sit with their legs tucked up so that you can see the cooter, but it'll be a podcast. So they'll be talking or doing a reaction video or whatever, but the cooter is right in the center of the screen, tight with the camel and everything visible. Just tuck it up and they scoosh it around and stuff. Maybe I should dick max.
Can't believe that's a thing.
Oh, you really can't believe it's a thing?
No.
I can't
it's
believe
worse
it.
and worse.
I can't believe it's taken this long.
Where's pride?
No pride. No pride, no dignity. Women don't have dignity anymore. Women don't have pride. Women sold all the way the fuck out. Feminism in the last 30 years has been sell out, sell your body. I should end this, but is it just taking time to download? Do you actually see? That says The Wasteland, right? There it is. All right, and now we're reading from T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. I won't be drinking any coffee, but The wasteland. Nom sibilum quidem cumus ego ipse oculis meis vidi in ampula pendere et cum ii pueri dicerent sibia ti teleis respondibat ia aponaten telo. Wine burial the dead. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgotten snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us coming over the Starnbergersee. Summer surprised us coming over the Starnbergersee with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank tea and talked for an hour. Bin gar keine Russen, Stamm aus Litauen, acht Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousins, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. He said, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went. And the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night, or I read much of the night, and go south in the winter. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, in the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Frisch weht der Winde, der Heimat zu, mein irisch Kind, wo willst du? You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They called me the Hyacinth Girl. Yet when we came back, late, from the Hyacinth Garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak, and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing. Looking into the heart of light, the silence, Wed und leer das Meer. Madame Sosostris, famous clairvoyante, had a bad cold, nevertheless, is known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a wicked pack of cards. Here, said she, is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Look, here is Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, the lady of situations. Here is the man with 3 staves, and here the wheel, and here is the one-eyed merchant. And this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I am forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man, fear death by water. I see crowds of people walking round in a ring. Thank you. If you see dear Mrs. Equitany, tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days. Unreal city, under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over the London Bridge, so many. I had not thought death had undone so many. Sighs, short and infrequent, were exhaled, and each man fixed his eyes before his feet, flowed up the hill and down King William Street, to where St. Mary Woolnoth kept the hours, with a dead sound on the final stroke of 9. There I saw one I knew and stopped him, crying, "Stetson, you were with me in the ships at Millet. That corpse you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year? Or has the sudden frost disturbed its bed? Oh, keep the dog far hence, that's friend to men. Or with his nails he'll dig it up again. You hypocrite lecteur, mon semblable, mon frère!" 2. A Game of Chess. From the Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. The chairs he sat in, like a burnished throne, glowed on the marble, where the glass held up by standards wrought with fruited vines, from which a golden cupidon peeped out. Another hid his eyes behind his wing, doubled the flames of 7-branched candelabra, reflecting light upon the table, as the glitter of her jewels rose to meet it, from satin cases poured in rich profusion in vials of ivory and colored glass. Unstoppered, lurked her strange synthetic perfumes, ungent, powdered or liquid troubled confusion, and drowned the scents and odors stirred by the air that freshened from the window. These ascended in fattening the prolonged candle flames, flung their smoke into the lacqueria, stirring the pattern on the coffered ceiling. Huge seawood fed with copper, burned green and orange, framed by the colored stone in which sad light a carved dolphin swam. Above the antique mantle was displayed, as though a window gave upon the sylvan scene, the change of Philomel by the barbarous king, so rudely forced. Yet there the nightingale filled all the desert with inviolable voice. And still she cried, and still the world pursues, "Jug, jug," to dirty ears. And other withered stumps of time were told upon the walls. Staring forms leaned out, leaning, hushing the room enclosed. Footsteps shuffled on the stair. Under the firelight, under the brush, her hair spread out in fiery points, glowed into words, then would be savagely still. "My nerves are bad tonight. Yes, bad. Stay with me. Speak to me. Why do you never speak? Speak. What are you thinking of? What thinking? What? I never know what you were thinking. Think." "I think we are in a rat's alley, where the dead men lost their bones." What is that noise? The wind under the door. What is that noise now? What is the wind doing? Nothing again. Nothing. Do you know nothing? Do you see nothing? Do you remember nothing? I remember. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Are you alive or not? Is there nothing in your head? But, oh, that Shakespearean rag. It's so elegant, so intelligent. What should I do now? What shall I do? I shall rush out as I am and walk the street, with my hair down so. What shall we do tomorrow? What shall we ever do? The hot water at 10? And if it rains, a closed car at 4? And we shall play a game of chess, pressing lidless eyes, and waiting for a knock upon the door. When Lil's husband got demobbed, I didn't mince my words. I said to her myself, "Hurry up, please, it's time." Now Adalbert's coming back. Make yourself a bit smart. He'll want to know what you done with that money he gave you. To get yourself some teeth. He did. I was there. You have them all out, Lil, and get a nice set, he said. I swear, I can't bear to look at you. And no more, can't I said, and think of poor Albert. He's been in the army 4 years. He wants a good time. And if you don't give it him, there's others will, I said. Oh, there is. Oh, is there? She said. Something of that, I said. Then I'll know who to thank, she said, and gave me a straight up. Hurry up, please, it's time. If you don't like it, you can get on with it, I said. Others can pick and choose if you can't. But if Albert makes off, it won't be for lack of telling. You ought to be ashamed, I said, to look so antique, and her only 31. I can't help it, she said, pulling a long face. It's them pills I took to bring it off, she said. She's had 5 already and nearly died of young George. The chemist said it would be all right, but I've never been the same. You're a proper fool, I said. Well, if Albert won't leave you alone, there it is, I said. What if you get married? What you get married for if you don't want children? Hurry up, please, it's time. Well, that Sunday Albert was home. They had a hot gammon, and they asked me into dinner to get the beauty of it hot. Hurry up, it's time! Hurry up, it's time! Good night, Bill. Good night, Lou. Good night, May. Good night. Ta-ta. Good night. Good night. Good night, ladies. Good night, sweet ladies. Good night. Good night. 3. From T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. The Fire Sermon. The river's tent is broken. The last fingers of leaf clutch and sink into the wet bank. The wind crosses the brown land unheard. The nymphs are departed. Sweet Thames runs softly till I end my song. The river bears no empty bottles, sandwich papers, silk handkerchiefs, cardboard boxes, cigarette ends, or other testimony of summer nights. The nymphs are departed, and their friends, the loitering heirs of city directors, departed, have left no addresses. By the water of Le Mans I sat down and wept. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. Sweet Thames, run softly, for I speak not loud or long, but at my back in a cold blast I hear the rattle of the bones and chuckle spread from ear to ear. A rat crept softly through the vegetation, dragging its slimy belly on the bank, while I was fishing in the dull canal on a winter evening round behind the gas house, musing upon the king my brother's wreck, and on the king my father's death before him. White bodies naked on the low damp ground, and bones cast in a little low dry garret, rattled by the rat's foot only year to year. But at my back from time to time I hear the sound of horns and motors, which shall bring Sweeney to Mrs. Porter in the spring. Oh, the moon shone bright on Mrs. Porter and on her daughter. They washed their feet in soda water. Et oh, que soit défense, chantant dans la coupla. Twit, 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 jug, 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 jug. so rudely forced to row. Unreal city. Under the brown fog of a winter noon, Mr. Eugenides, the Smyrna merchant, unshaven, with a pocket full of currants, CIF London, documents at sight, asked me in demotic French to luncheon at the Cannon Street Hotel, followed by a weekend at the Metropole. At the violet hour when the eyes and back turn upward from the desk, when the human engine waits like a taxi, throbbing, waiting, I, Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breasts, can see at the violet hour, the evening hour that strives homeward and brings the sailor home from sea. The typist home at tea time clears her breakfast, lights her stove, and lays out food in tins. Out of the window, perilously spread, her drying combinations touched by the sun's last rays. On the divan are piled, at night her bed, stockings, slippers, camisoles, and stays. I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled dugs, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I too awaited the expected guest. He, the young man carbuncular, arrives, a small house agent's clerk with one bold stare, one of the low on whom assurance sits as a silk hat on a Bradford millionaire. The time is now propitious as he guesses. The meal is ended, she is bored and tired, endeavors to engage her in caresses, which still are unproved if undesired. Flushed and decided, he assaults at once. Exploring hands encounter no defense. His vanity requires no response, and makes a welcome of indifference. And I, Tiresias, have forsuffered all, enacted on this same divan or bed. I who have sat by Thebes below the wall and walked among the lowest of the dead, bestows one final patronizing kiss and gropes his way, finding the stairs unlit. She turns and looks a moment in the glass, hardly aware of her departed lover. Her brain allows one half-formed thought to pass. Well, now that's done, and I'm glad it's over. When lovely woman stoops to folly and paces about her room again, alone, she smooths her hair with automatic hand and puts a record on the gramophone. This music crept by me upon the waters and along the strand of Queen Victoria Street. Oh, city, city, I can sometime hear beside a public bar and Lower Thames Street the pleasant whining of a mandolin and a clatter and a chatter from within, where fishermen lounge at noon, where the walls of Magnus Martyr hold an inexplicable splendor of Ionian white and gold. The river sweats, oil and tar, the bridges drift with the turning tide, red sails, wide, till leeward swing on the heavy spar, the barges wash, drifting logs, down Greenwich Reach, past the Isle of Dogs. Way-a-la-la leia, wa-la-la leia-la-la. Elizabeth and Lancaster beating oars, Leicester, sorry. Elizabeth and Leicester beating oars, the stern was formed, a gilded shell. Red and gold, the brisk swell, rippled both shores, southwest wind, carried downstream. The peal of bells, white towers, why-a-la-la-leia, wa-la-la-leia-la-la. Trams and dusty trees, Highbury bore me, Richmond and Kew undid me.
By Richmond I raised my knees supine on the floor of a narrow canoe. My feet are at Moorgate, and my heart under my feet. After the event he wept. He promised a new start. I made no comment. What should I resent? On Margate sands, I can connect nothing with nothing. The broken fingernails of dirty hands. My people, humble people who expect nothing. La, la. To Carthage then I came, burning, 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 burning. O Lord, thou pluckest me out. O Lord, thou pluckest burning. 4. From T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. Phlebas, the Phoenician, a fortnight dead, forgot the cry of gulls and the deep sea swell, and the profit and loss. A current under sea pickled his bones and whispers. As he rose and fell, he passed the stages of his age and youth, entering the whirlpool. Gentile or Jew, O you who turn the wheel and look to windward, consider Phlebas, who was once handsome and tall as you. 5. From The Wasteland, T.S. Eliot. What the Thunder Said. After the torchlight red on my sweaty face, after the frosty silence in the gardens, after the agony in stony places, the shouting and the crying, prison and palace and reverberation of thunder of spring over distant mountains, he who was living is now dead. We who were living are now dying. With a little patience, here is no water but only rock. Rock and no water in the sandy road, the road winding above among the mountains, which are mountains of rock without water. If there were water, we should stop and drink. Amongst the rock went on, one cannot stop or think. Sweat is dry and feet are in the sand. If there were only water amongst the rock. Dead mountain mouth of carious teeth that cannot spit. Here one can neither stand nor lie nor sit. There is not even silence in the mountains, but dry, sterile thunder without rain. There is not even solitude in the mountains, but red, sullen faces sneer and snarl from doors of mud-cracked houses. If there were water and no rock, if there were rock and also water, and water, a spring, a pool among the rock, if there were the sound of water only, not the cicada and dry grass singing, but sound of water over a rock, where the hermit thrush sings and the pine trees drip, drop, 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 but there is no water. Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you, gliding, wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman. But who is that on the other side of you? What is that sound high in the air? Murmur of maternal lamentation? Who are those hooded hordes swarming over endless plains, stumbling in cracked earth, ringed by the flat horizon only? What is the city over the mountains? Cracks and reforms and bursts in the violet air. falling towers. Jerusalem, Athens, Alexandria, Vienna, London, unreal. A woman drew her long black hair out tight and fiddled whispered music on those strings. And bats with baby faces in the violet light whistled and beat their wings and crawled head downward down a blackened wall, and upside down in air were towers tolling reminiscent bells which kept the hours, and voices singing out of empty cisterns and exhausted wells. In this decayed hole among the mountains, in the faint moonlight, the grass is singing over the tumbled graves. About the chapel, there is the empty chapel, only the wind's home. It has no windows and the door swings. Dry bones can harm no one. Only a cock stood on the roof tree. Cocorico, cocorico. And a flash of lightning. Then a damp gust, bringing rain. Gongo was sunken, and the limp leaves waited for rain, while the black clouds gathered far distant over Himavant. The jungle crouched, humped in silence. Then spoke the thunder, Da! Data, what have we given? My friend, blood shaking my heart, the awful daring of a moment's surrender, which an age of prudence can never retract. By this and only this we have existed, which is not to be found in our obituaries, or in memories draped by the beneficent spider, or under seals broken by the lean solicitor in our empty rooms. Da! Diet vom. I have heard the key turn in the door once and turn once only. We think of the key, each in his prison. Thinking of the key, each confirms the prison. Only at nightfall, ethereal rumors revive for a moment a broken Coriolanus. Da! Damyata, the boat responded, gaily to the hand expert with sail and oar. The sea was calm. Your heart would have responded, gaily when invited, beating obedient to controlling hands. I sat upon the shore, fishing, with the arid plain behind me. Shall I at least set my lands in order? London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Squasso se nel fuoco lì affina. Quando fiam uti celidon. Oh, swallow, swallow. Le prince d'Aquitaine a la tua abolie. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. When then I'll fit you, Hieronymo's mad again. Data, Daya Devam, Damyata, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The end.
That was beautiful.
That
Beautifully
wasn't
read.
that wasn't the poem I thought it was.
I know.
What was the poem you thought it was? Or I
Hollow
thought
Man.
Huh?
Hollow Man.
Man. Hollow Man is much easier to understand.
Paul Quinn says that you missed your calling, that you should work for Audible. I've told him this 100 times already.
I don't know how you think that happens. I don't have access to the Hollow Men in this book. Of course not. Why would I?
You read that beautifully.
Thank you.
I love it when you read.
Let's see if I have the book I want.
Hollow Men, not man. I apologize.
I said man. I technically corrected you.
Yeah.
He changed the cover this week. Good for you, Nika. Good for you, Jay. Good for you. Would you had to wait till I wasn't homeless to work on your work again, buddy? Or did you walk across me by accident? Thank you, Rachel. I don't own the book that I want, Rachel.
What book is that, sweetheart? Not the chin quiver.
I think it's funny that I can probably type faster than most people with one hand to my side.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I've been a secretary for 30 years. I don't want to talk about
You
it.
want to talk about that? I can do that.
Fucker.
It's practice, baby. Here, I'll do it again. Believe that wasn't a fluke. Look, you got to type in porn over here when you got your laptop.
Get the fuck out of here.
That was a joke.
Yeah, no.
That was me doing stand-up comedy. Okay. The Kindle edition of my favorite story. One of my very favorite short stories. I'm going to read it to you, Rachel, because I've told you about it a bunch of times.
Okay.
It's shorter than At the Mountains of Madness, which we could finish. But I might be done when I finish this.
Okay.
Be 2 o'clock. I'm already late.
Yeah.
To go to bed. I didn't realize it was so late. All right, ready?
Ready.
The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. What?
Paul Quince is funny. He said, nah, that is couch lounging comedy right there, boy.
Alright, let me get this
Come on, Mama.
all plugged in properly.
Let's listen
Make
up.
sure my phone doesn't die while I'm not paying attention. I am allowed to say the name of his cat in this story, but I probably am not gonna. I'm probably gonna change the name of the cat in this story.
What's the name of the cat?
Nigger Man.
Oh.
I think it's funny. It's stupid. It's racist, but it's funny. Whatever. He was a weird dude, and his weirdness doesn't glom on to me just because I think this is a cool horror story. He didn't actually do anything to harm anybody. He just had stupid opinions. He didn't work to. He was too agoraphobic to work to bring those opinions to actually harm people. He just shouted at people from his window if he did that. Yeah, he just told his friends that he didn't like Polish people. It's just, That was his thing. He just really fucking hated Polish people for some reason. Whatever. He thought that the Polish element in New York was an element of crime and debauchery. And he just wrote about it a lot. So people were like, oh no, if I like H.P. Lovecraft, I hate Polish people. And it's like nobody cares if you hate Polish people. Anyway. On July 16th, 1923, writes H.P. Lovecraft in The Rats in the Walls, I moved into Exham Priory after the last workman had finished his labors. The restoration had been a stupendous task, for little had remained of the deserted pile but a shell-like ruin. Yet, because it had been the seat of my ancestors, I let no expense deter me. The place had not been inhabited since the reign of James I, when a tragedy of intensely hideous, though largely unexplained nature, had struck down the master, 5 of his children, and several servants, and driven forth, under a cloud of suspicion and terror, the 3rd son, my lineal progenitor, and the only survivor of the abhorred line. With this sole heir denounced as a murderer, the estate had reverted to the crown, nor had the accused man made any attempt to exculpate himself or regain his property. Shaken by some horror greater than that of conscience or the law, and expressing only a frantic wish to exclude the ancient edifice from his sight and memory, Walter de la Poer, 11th Baron Exham, fled to Virginia and there founded the family which by the next century had become known as de la Poer. Yeah, Lovecraft did not live a good life, and he didn't die honorably. That's probably... Exham Priory had remained untenanted, though, later allotted to the estates of the Norreys family, and much studied because of its peculiarly, that's a hard word to say, composite architecture, an architecture involving Gothic towers resting on a Saxon or Romanesque substructure, whose foundation, in turn, was of a still earlier order, or blend of orders, Roman and even Druidic or native Cumric, if legends speak truly. This foundation was a very singular thing, being merged on one side with the solid limestone of the precipice, from whose brink the priory overlooked a desolate valley 3 miles west of the village of Anchester. Do you understand what's going on, what he's describing? Okay, so his great-grandfather was accused of murder and went away and just pretended his house didn't exist. Except it's not really a house, it's a priory. A priory is kind of like where monks live, but important monks live in a priory, okay? And so his grandfather owns this priory for whatever reason and ran away, right? And so now he's describing it. And the thing about this priory is it's old. And it's existed there for a very long time, before Roman times. It's a very long time ago, yeah. 60 BCE, give or take, is when the Romans showed up. And so this is 1923, and they've got this house that has existing architecture from the 1st century BCE. This house might be older than Jesus.
Wow.
Like that is what he's describing. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, touch base, that we understand who the Cymry people are, the Welsh people. That's their native name. Welsh either means slave or other. It's a derogatory word. We really shouldn't use it. It's an epithet. It's a racial epithet. Architects and antiquarians, continues Lovecraft's character, love to examine this strange relic of forgotten centuries, but the country folk hated it. They had hated it hundreds of years before when my ancestors lived there, and they hated it now. I guess it was hundreds, not his grandfather. Great. Hundreds of years, grandfather.
Yeah, super old.
With the moss and mold of abandonment on it. I had not been a day in Anchester before I knew I came of an accursed house. And this week workmen have blown up Exham Priory and are busy obliterating the traces of its foundations. So you understand that he's about to tell us a story that happened to him.
Yeah.
Because he realized when he walked in that his house ain't good. And now he's blowing it up with dynamite. All the way to the foundations. You ready?
Ready.
The bare statistics of my ancestry I had always known, together with the fact that my first American forebear had come to the colonies under a strange cloud. Of details, however, I had been kept wholly ignorant through the policy of reticence always maintained by the De La Poors. Unlike our planter neighbors, we seldom boasted of crusading ancestors or of other medieval and Renaissance heroes, nor was any kind of tradition handed down except what may have been recorded in the sealed envelope left before the Civil War by every squire to his eldest son for posthumous opening. Can I just cut in real quick and like the history of this? Like, there was a time in American past, in the American tradition, in the American history, when fathers told their sons stories about their ancestors having fought in the Crusades, in the Renaissance, in the medieval world. They could remember, there was a time in the American past when fathers could remember, grandfathers could remember great-grandfathers past and their actual contributions to the medieval world. That's cool.
Yeah.
That is not the case anymore. Nor was any kind of tradition handed down except what may have been recorded in the sealed envelope left before the Civil War by every squire to his eldest son for posthumous opening. The glories we cherished were those achieved since the migration, the glories of a proud and honorable, if somewhat reserved and unsocial Virginia line. During the war, our fortunes were extinguished and our whole existence changed by the burning of Carfax, our home on the banks of the James. My grandfather, advanced in years, had perished in that incendiary outrage, and with him the envelope had bound us all to the past. I can recall that fire today as I saw it then at the age of 7, with the Federal soldiers shouting, the women screaming, and the Negroes howling and praying. My father was in the army defending Richmond, and after many formalities, my mother and I were passing through the lines to join them. When the war ended, we all moved north, whence my mother had come, and I grew to manhood, middle age, and ultimate wealth as a solid Yankee. Neither my father nor I ever knew what our hereditary envelope had contained, and as I merged into the grayness of Massachusetts business life, I lost all interest in the mysteries which evidently lurked far back in my family tree. Had I suspected their nature, how I gladly would have left Exham Priory to its moss, bats, and cobwebs. My father died in 1904, but without any message to leave me or to my child Alfred, a motherless boy of 10. It was this boy who reversed the order of family information, for although I could give him only jesting conjectures about the past, he wrote me of some very interesting ancestral legends when the late war took him to England in 1917 as an aviation officer. Apparently, the De La Poors had a colorful and perhaps sinister history, for a friend of my son's, Captain Edward Norreys of the Royal Flying Corps, dwelt near the family seat at Anchester and related some peasant superstitions, which few novelists could equal for wildness and incredibility. Norreys himself, of course, did not take them seriously, but they amused my son and made good material for his letters to me. It was this legendary which definitely turned my attention to my transatlantic heritage and made my resolve to purchase and restore the family seat which Norrie showed to Alfred and its picturesque desertion, and offered to get for him at a surprisingly reasonable figure, since his own uncle was the present owner. I bought Exham Priory in 1918, but was almost immediately distracted from my plans of restoration by the return of my son as a maimed invalid. During the 2 years that he lived, I thought of nothing but his care, having even placed my business under the direction of partners. In 1921, as I found myself bereaved and aimless, a retired manufacturer no longer young, I resolved to divert my remaining years with my new possession. Visiting Anchester in December, I was entertained by Captain Norreys, a plump, amiable young man who had thought much of my son, and secured his assistance in gathering plans and anecdotes to guide in the coming restoration. Exham Priory itself I saw without emotion,
a jumble of tottering medieval ruins covered with lichen and honeycombed with rooks' nests, perched perilously upon a precipice and denuded of floors or other interior features save the stone walls of the separate towers. As I gradually recovered the image of the edifice as it had been when my ancestor left it over 3 centuries before, I began to hire workmen for the reconstruction. In every case, I was forced to go outside the immediate locality, for the Anchester villagers had an almost unbelievable fear and hatred of the place. This sentiment was so great that it was sometimes communicated to the outside laborers, causing numerous desertions, while its scope appeared to include both the priory and its ancient family. My son had told me that he was somewhat avoided during his visits because he was a de la Poor, and I now found myself subtly ostracized for a like reason, until I convinced the peasants how little I knew of my heritage. Even then, they sullenly disliked me, so that I had to collect most of the village traditions through the mediations of Norris. What the people could not forgive, perhaps, was that I had come to restore a symbol so abhorrent to them. For, rationally or not, they viewed Exham Priory as nothing less than a haunt of fiends and werewolves. Piecing together the tale which Norris collected for me and supplementing them with the accounts of several savants who had studied the ruins, I deduced that Exham Priory stood on the site of a prehistoric temple, a druidical or anti-druidical thing, which must have been contemporary with Stonehenge. It's 2500 BC or something. I think that's when that went up. That indescribable rites had been celebrated here, few doubted. And there were unpleasant tales of the transference of these rites and of the Sibyl worship which the Romans had introduced. Inscriptions still visible in the subcellar bore such unmistakable letters as D-I-V-O-P-S, Magna, M-A-T, sign of the Magna Mater, whose dark worship was once vainly forbidden to Roman citizens. Anchester had been the camp of the 3rd Augustan Legion, as many remains attest, and it was said that the Temple of Sibyl was splendid and thronged with worshippers who performed nameless ceremonies at the bidding of a Phrygian priest. Tales added that the fall of the old religion did not end the orgies at the temple, but that the priests lived on in the new faith without real change. Likewise was it said that the rites did not vanish with the Roman power, and that certain among the Saxons added to what remained of the temple and gave it the essential outline it subsequently preserved, making it the center of a cult feared through half the Heptarchy. About 1000 AD, the place is mentioned in a chronicle as being a substantial stone priory housing a strange and powerful monastic order, and surrounded by extensive gardens which needed no walls to exclude a frightened populace. It was never destroyed by the Danes, though after the Norman conquest it must have declined tremendously, since there was no impediment when Henry III granted the site to my ancestor Gilbert de la Poer, 1st Baron Exham, in 1261. Of my family, before this date, there is no evil report, but something strange must have happened to them. In one chronicle, there is a reference to a de la Poer as cursed of God in 1307, whilst village legendary had nothing but evil and frantic fear to tell of the castle that went up on the foundations of the old temple and priory. The fireside tales were of the most grisly description, all the ghastlier because of their frightened reticence and cloudy evasiveness. They represented my ancestors as a race of hereditary demons, beside whom Gilles de Retz and Marquis de Sade would seem the various tyros, and hinted whisperingly at their responsibility for the occasional disappearance of villagers through several generations. The worst characters, apparently, were the barons and their direct heirs. At least, most was whispered about these.
If of healthier inclinations, it was said, an heir would early and mysteriously die to make way for another more typical scion. There seemed to be an inner cult in the family, presided over by the head of the house and sometimes closed, except to a few members. For passers-by were reading H.P. Lovecraft's The Rats in the Walls. Temperament rather than ancestry was evidently the basis of this cult, for it was entered by several who married into the family. Lady Margaret Trevor from Cornwall, wife of Godfrey, the second son of the 5th Baron, became a favorite bane of children all over the countryside, and the daemon heroine of a particularly horrible old ballad not yet extinct near the Welsh border. Preserved in balladry, too, though not illustrating the same point, is the hideous tale of Lady Marie de la Poer, who shortly after her marriage to the Earl of Shrewfield was killed by him and his mother, both of the slayers being absolved and blessed by the priest to whom they confessed what they dare not repeat to the world. These myths and ballads, typical as they were of crude superstition, repelled me greatly. Their persistence and their application to so long a line of my ancestors were especially annoying. Whilst the imputations of monstrous habits proved unpleasantly reminiscent of the one known scandal of my immediate forebears, the case of my cousin, young Randolph de la Poer of Carfax, who went among the Negroes and became a voodoo priest after he returned from the Mexican War. I was much less disturbed by the vaguer tales of wails and howlings in the barren, windswept valley beneath the limestone cliff, of the graveyard stenches after the spring rains, of the floundering, squealing white thing on which Sir John Clove's horse had trode one night in a lonely valley, and of the servant who had gone mad at what he saw in the priory in the full light of day. These things were hackneyed spectral lore, and I was at that time a pronounced skeptic. The accounts of vanished peasants were less to be dismissed, though not especially significant in view of medieval custom. Prying curiosity meant death, and more than one severed head had been publicly shown on the bastions, now effaced, around Exham Priory. A few of the tales were exceedingly picturesque and made me wish I had learnt more of comparative mythology in my youth. There was, for instance, the belief that a legion of bat-winged devils kept witches' Sabbath each night at the priory, a legion whose sustenance might explain the disproportionate abundance of coarse vegetables harvested in the vast gardens. And, most vivid of all, there was the dramatic epic of the rats, the scampering army of obscene vermin which had burst forth from the castle 3 months after the tragedy that doomed it to desertion. The lean, filthy, ravenous army which had swept all before it and devoured fowl, cats, dogs, hogs, sheep, and even 2 hapless human beings before its fury was spent. Around that unforgettable rodent army, a whole separate cycle of myths revolves, for it scattered among the village homes and brought curses and horrors in its train. From The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. Such was the lore that assailed me as I pushed to completion with an elderly obstinacy the work of restoring my ancestral home. It must not be imagined for a moment that these tales form my principal psychological environment. On the other hand, I was constantly praised and encouraged by Captain Norris and the antiquarians who surrounded and aided me. When the task was done over 2 years after its commencement, I viewed the great rooms, wainscoted walls, vaulted ceilings, mullioned windows, and broad staircases with a pride which fully compensated for the prodigious expense of the restoration. Every attribute of the Middle Ages was cunningly reproduced, and the new parts blended perfectly with the original walls and foundations. The seat of my fathers was complete, and I looked forward to redeeming at last the local fame of the line which ended in me. I would reside here permanently, and prove that a de la Poer, for I had adopted again the original spelling of the name, need not be a fiend. My comfort was perhaps augmented by the fact that, although Exham Priory was medievally fitted, its interior was in truth wholly new and free from old vermin and old ghosts alike. As I have said, I moved in on July 16th, 1923. You heard that, right? That even though it looks medieval, everything inside it was brand spanking new.
Yeah.
So there's no vermin in it. You heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. As I have said, I moved in on July 16th, 1923. My household consisted of 7 servants and 9 cats, of which later species I am particular fond. My eldest cat, Jigaman, was 7 years older and had come with me from my home in Bolton, Massachusetts. There's a Bolton and a Boston. Anyway, the others I had accumulated whilst living with Captain Norris's family during the restoration of the priory. For 5 days, our routine proceeded with the utmost placidity, my time being spent mostly in the codification of old family data. I had now obtained some very circumstantial accounts of the final tragedy and flight of Walter de la Poer, which I conceived to be the probable contents of the hereditary paper lost in the fire at Carfax. It appeared that my ancestor was accused with much reason of having killed all the other members of his household, except for 4 servant confederates, in their sleep, about 2 weeks after a shocking discovery which changed his whole demeanor, but which, except for implication, he disclosed to no one who assisted him and afterward fled beyond reach. From the Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. This deliberate slaughter, which included a father, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters, was largely condoned by the villagers and so slackly treated by the law that its perpetrator escaped honored, unharmed, and undisguised to Virginia. The general whispered sentence being that he had purged the land of an immemorial curse. What discovery had prompted an act so terrible I could scarcely even conjecture. Walter de la Poer must have known for years the sinister tales about his family, so that his material could have given him no fresh impulse. Had he then witnessed some appalling ancient rite or stumbled upon some frightful and revealing symbol in the priory or its vicinity? He was reputed to have been a shy, gentle youth in England. In Virginia, he seemed not so much hard or bitter as harassed and apprehensive. He was spoken of in the diary of another gentleman adventurer, Francis Harley of Bellevue, as a man of unexampled justice, honor, and delicacy. You catch that? The one who ran away was a good dude. And other people wrote about his being a good dude. On July 22nd occurred the first incident which, though lightly dismissed at the time, takes on a preternatural significance in relation to later events. It was so simple as to be almost negligible and could not possibly have been noticed under the circumstances, for it must be recalled that since I was in a building practically fresh and new except for the walls, and surrounded by a well-balanced staff of servitors, apprehension would have been absurd despite the locality. What I afterward remembered is merely this, that my old black cat, whose moods I know so well, was undoubtedly alert and anxious, to an extent wholly out of keeping with his natural character. He roved from room to room, restless and disturbed, and sniffed constantly about the walls which formed part of the old Gothic structure. I realized how trite this sounds, like the inevitable dog in the ghost story, which always growls before his master sees the sheeted figure. Yet I cannot consistently suppress it. The following day, a servant complained of restlessness among all the cats in the house. He came to me in my study, a lofty west room on the 2nd story, with groined arches, black oak paneling, and a triple Gothic window overlooking the limestone cliff and desolate valley. And even as he spoke, I saw the jetty form of Jigaman creeping along the west wall and scratching at the new panels which overlaid the ancient stone.
I told the man that there must be some singular odor or emanation from the old stonework imperceptible to human senses, but affecting the delicate organs of cats even through the old woodwork, or the new woodwork. This I truly believed, and when the fellow suggested the presence of mice or rats, I mentioned that there had been no rats there for 300 years, and that even the field mice of the surrounding country could hardly be found in these high walls, where they had never been known to stay. That afternoon I called on Captain Norris, and he assured me that it would be quite incredible for field mice to infest a priory in such a sudden and unprecedented nature. That night, dispensing as usual with a valet, I retired in the west tower chamber, which I had chosen as my own, reached from the study by a stone staircase and a short gallery, the former partly ancient, the latter entirely restored. This room was circular, very high, and without wainscoting, being hung with auras which I had myself chosen in London. Seeing that Jiggaman was with me, I shut the heavy Gothic door and retired by the light of the electric bulbs which so cleverly counterfeited candles, finally switching off the light and sinking on the carved and canopied four-poster with the venerable cat in his accustomed place across my feet. I did not draw the curtains, but gazed out at the narrow north window which I faced. There was a suspicion of aurora in the sky, and the delicate traceries of the window were pleasantly silhouetted. This is The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. At some time I must have fallen quietly asleep, for I recall a distinct sense of leaving strange dreams. Leaving strange dreams. When the cat started violently from his placid position, I saw him in the faint auroral glow, head strained forward, 4 feet on my ankles and hind feet stretched behind. He was looking intensely at a point on the wall somewhat west of the window, a point which to my eye had nothing to mark it, but toward which all my attention was now directed. And as I watched, I knew that Jiggaman was not vainly excited. Whether the auras actually moved, I cannot say. I think it did, very slightly, but what I can swear to is that behind it I heard a low, distinct scurrying as of rats or mice. In a moment, the cat had jumped bodily on the screening tapestry, bringing the affected section of the floor with his weight, and exposing a damp, ancient wall of stone, patched here and there by the restorers, and devoid of any trace of rodent prowlers. Jiggaman raced up and down the floor by this part of the wall, clawing the fallen auras and seemingly trying at times to insert a paw between the wall and the oaken floor. He found nothing, and after a time returned wearily to his place across my feet. I had not moved, but I did not sleep again that night. In the morning, I questioned all the servants and found that none of them had noticed anything unusual, save that the cook remembered the actions of a cat, which had rested on her windowsill. This cat had howled at some unknown hour of the night, awaking the cook in time for her to see him dart purposefully out of the open door down the stairs. I drowsed away the noontime, and in the afternoon called again on Captain Norris, who became exceedingly interested in what I told him. The odd incidents, so slight yet so curious, appealed to his sense of the picturesque and elicited from him a number of reminiscences of local ghostly lore. We were genuinely perplexed at the presence of rats, and Norris lent me some traps and Paris green, which I had to... Sorry about that. Yeah, it's the end of the world, no doubt. My phone died. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to read this last... I'm just going to back up and read this last paragraph. In the morning, I questioned all the servants and found that none of them had noticed anything unusual, save that the cook remembered the actions of a cat which had rested on her windowsill. This cat had howled at some unknown hour of the night, awaking the cook in time for her to see him dart purposefully out the open door down the stairs. I drowsed away the noontime, and in the afternoon called again on Captain Norris, who became exceedingly interested in what I told him. The odd incident, so slight yet so curious, excuse me, appealed to his sense of the picturesque and elicited from him a number of reminiscences of local ghostly lore. I want to interrupt real quick. Do we all know that when he says picturesque, kind of means picar-esque? Do we know what a picar-esque novel is? Do you know what a picaroon is?
I know what a picturesque is, but no.
Okay. A picaresque became picturesque. They became the same word. Picaresque or picaroon novels were late medieval novels that were about adventurers going to magical and faraway places and fighting ghosts and stuff. So, like, the Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean movies are actually picaroon movies. They're pirate movies for sure, but picaroon novels were oftentimes about pirates who would end up fighting ghosts and stuff. So when he says that in 1920s, right, he knows this guy Norris, and Norris has a sense of the picturesque. He actually means he has a sense of the picaroon.
Oh.
Picar is a Spanish word, I'm sure of it.
No.
Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we were all on a page there. And I'm going to go back. The odd incident, so slight yet so curious, appealed to Norris's sense of the picturesque and elicited from him a number of reminiscences of local ghostly lore. We were genuinely perplexed at the presence of rats, and Norris lent me some traps and Paris green, which I had the servants place in strategic localities when I returned. I retired early, being very sleepy, but was harassed by dreams of the most terrible sort. I seemed to be looking down from an immense height upon a twilit grotto, knee-deep with filth, where a white-bearded demon swineherd drove about with his staff a flock of fungus, that's Fungous, funguous, flabby beasts, whose appearance filled me with unutterable loathing. Then, as the swineherd paused and nodded over his task, a mighty swarm of rats rained down on the stinking abyss and fell to devouring beasts and man alike. From this terrific vision, I was abruptly awaked by the motions of Jigaman, who had been sleeping as usual across my feet. This time I did not have to question the source of his snarls and hisses and of the fear which made him sink his claws into my ankle, unconscious of their effect. For on every side of the chamber the walls were alive with nauseous sound, the verminous slithering of ravenous, gigantic rats. There was now no aurora to show the state of the auras, the fallen section of which had been replaced, but I was not too frightened to switch on the light. As the bulbs leapt into radiance, I saw a hideous shaking all over the tapestry, causing the somewhat peculiar designs to execute a singular dance of death. This motion disappeared almost at once, and the sound with it. Springing out of bed, I poked at the auras with the long handle of a warming pan that rested near, and lifted one section to see what lay beneath. There was nothing but the patched stone wall, and even the cat had lost his tense realization of abnormal presences. When I examined the circular trap that had been placed in the room, I found all of the openings sprung, though no trace remained of what had been caught and had escaped. Further sleep was out of the question, so lighting a candle, I opened the door and went out in the gallery toward the stairs to my study. Jigaman followed at my heels. Before we had reached the stone steps, however, the cat darted ahead of me and had vanished down the ancient flight. As I descended the stairs myself, I became suddenly aware of sounds in the great room below. Sounds of a nature which could not be mistaken. The oak-paneled walls were alive with rats, scampering and milling, whilst Jigaman was racing about with the fury of a baffled hunter. Reaching the bottom, I switched on the light, but did not this time cause the noise to subside. The rats continued their riot, stampeding with such force and distinctness that I could finally assign to their motions a definite direction. These creatures, in numbers apparently inexhaustible, were engaged in one stupendous migration from inconceivable heights to some depth conceivably or inconceivably below.
I now heard steps in the corridor, and in another moment 2 servants pushed open the massive door. We're reading The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. And in another moment 2 servants pushed open the massive door. They were searching the house for some unknown source of disturbance which had thrown all the cats into a snarling panic and caused them to plunge precipitously down several flights of stairs and squat, yowling, before the closed door to the sub-cellar. I asked them if they had heard the rats, but they replied in the negative. And when I turned to call their attention to the sounds in the panels, I realized that the noise had ceased. With the 2 men, I went down to the door of the sub-cellar, but found the cats had already dispersed. Later, I resolved to explore the crypt below, but for the present, I merely made a round of the traps. All were sprung, yet all were tenantless. Satisfying myself that no one had heard the rats save the felines and me, I sat in my study till morning, thinking profoundly and recalling every scrap of legend I had unearthed concerning the building I inhabited. I slept some in the forenoon, leaning back in the one comfortable library chair which my medieval plan of furnishing could not banish. Later, I telephoned to Captain Norris, who came over and helped me explore the sub-cellar. Absolutely nothing untoward was found, although we could not repress a thrill at the knowledge that this vault was built by Roman hands. Every low arch and massive pillar was Roman, not the debased Romanesque of the bungling Saxons, but the severe and harmonious classicism of the age of the Caesars. Indeed, the walls abounded with inscriptions familiar to the antiquarians who had repeatedly explored this place. Things like P. Getae, PROP, TEMP, DONA, and LPRAEC, VS, PONTIFIATYS. The reference to Attis made me shiver, for I had read Catullus and knew something of the hideous rites of the Eastern god, whose worship was so mixed with that of Sybil. Norris and I, by the light of lanterns, tried to interpret the odd and nearly effaced designs on certain irregularly rectangular blocks of stone generally held to be altars, but could make nothing of them. We remembered that one pattern, a sort of rayed sun, was held by students to imply a non-Roman origin, suggesting that these altars had merely been adopted by the Roman priest from some older and perhaps aboriginal temple on the same site. On one of these blocks were some brown stains, which made me wonder. The largest in the center of the room had certain features on the upper surface which indicated its connection with fire, probably burnt offerings. From The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. Such were the sights in that crypt before whose door the cats had howled, and where Norris and I now determined to pass the night. Couches were brought down by the servants, who were told not to mind any nocturnal actions of the cats, and Jiggaman was admitted as much for help as for companionship. We decided to keep the great oak door, a modern replica with slits for ventilation, tightly closed, and with this attended to, we retired with lanterns still burning to await whatever might occur. The vault was very deep in the foundations of the priory, and undoubtedly far down on the face of the beetling limestone cliff overlooking the waste valley. That it had been the goal of the scuffling and unexplainable rats I could not doubt, though why I could not tell. As we lay there unexpectedly, I found my vigil occasionally mixed with half-formed dreams, from which the uneasy motions of the cat across my feet would rouse me. These dreams were not wholesome, but horribly like the one I had had the night before. I saw again the Twilight Grotto and the swineherd with his unmentionable fungus beasts, wallowing in filth, and as I looked at these things, they seemed nearer and more distinct, so distinct that I could almost observe their features. Then I did observe the flabby features of one of them, and awaked with such a scream that Jiggaman started up, whilst Captain Norris, who had not slept, laughed considerably. Norris might have laughed more, or perhaps less,
had he known what it was that made me scream. But I did not remember myself till later. Ultimate horror often paralyzes memory in a merciful way. Norris waked me when the phenomena began. Out of the same frightful dream, I was called by his gentle shaking and his urging to listen to the cats. Indeed, there was much to listen to, for beyond the closed door at the head of the stone steps was a veritable nightmare of feline yelling and clawing, whilst Jiggaman, unmindful of his kindred outside, was running excitedly around the bare stone walls, in which I heard the same babble of scurrying rats that had troubled me the night before. The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. An acute terror now rose within me, for here were anomalies which nothing normal could well explain. These rats, if not the creatures of a madness which I shared with the cats alone, must be burrowing and sliding in Roman walls I had thought to be of solid limestone blocks. Unless perhaps the action of water through more than 17 centuries had eaten winding tunnels which rodent bodies had worn clear and ample, but even so, the spectral horror was no less. For if these were living vermin, why did not Norris hear their disgusting commotion? Why did he urge me to watch Jiggaman and listen to the cats outside? And why did he guess wildly and vaguely at what could have aroused them? By the time I had managed to tell him as rationally as I could what I thought I was hearing, my ears gave me the last fading impression of the scurrying, which had retreated still downward, far underneath this deepest of subcellars, till it seemed as if the whole cliff below were riddled with questing rats. Norris was not as skeptical as I had anticipated, but instead seemed profoundly moved. He motioned to me to notice that the cats at the door had ceased their clamor, as if giving up the rats for lost, whilst Jiggaman had a burst of renewed restlessness and was crawling frantically around the bottom of the large stone altar in the center of the room, which was nearer Norris's couch than mine. My fear of the unknown was at this point very great. Something astounding had occurred, and I saw that Captain Norris, a younger, stouter, and presumably more naturally materialistic man, was affected fully as much as myself, perhaps because of his lifelong and intimate familiarity with local legend. We could for the moment do nothing but watch the old black cat as he pawed with decreasing fervor at the base of the altar, occasionally looking up and mewing to me in that persuasive manner which he used when he wished me to perform some favor for him. From The Rats in the Walls, H.P. Lovecraft. Norris now took a lantern close to the altar and examined the place where Jiggaman was pawing, silently kneeling and scraping away the lichens of centuries, which joined the massive pre-Roman blocks to the tessellated floor. He did not find anything, and was about to abandon his effort when I noticed a trivial circumstance which made me shudder, even though it implied nothing more than I had already imagined. I told him of it, and we both looked at its almost imperceptible manifestation with the fixedness of fascinated discovery and acknowledgement. It was only this, that the flame of the lantern set down near the altar was slightly, but certainly, flickering from a draught of air which it had not before received, and which came indubitably from the crevice between the floor and altar, where Norris was scraping away the lichens. We spent the rest of the night in the brilliantly lighted study, nervously discussing what we should do next. The discovery that some vault deeper than the deepest known masonry of the Romans underlay this accursed pile, some vault unsuspected by the curious antiquarians of 3 centuries, would have been sufficient to excite us without any background of the sinister. As it was, the fascination became twofold, and we paused in doubt whether to abandon our search and quit the priory forever in superstitious caution, or to gratify our senses of adventure and brave whatever horrors might await us in the unknown depths. By morning, we had comprised and decided to go to London to gather a group of archaeologists and scientific men fit to cope with the mystery.
It should be mentioned that before leaving the subcellar, we had vainly tried to move the central altar, which we now recognized as the gate to a new pit of nameless fear. What secret would open the gate? Wiser than me would have to find. During many days in London, Captain Norris and I presented our facts, conjectures, and legendary anecdotes to 5 eminent authorities, all men who could be trusted to respect any family disclosures which future explorations might develop. We found most of them little disposed to scoff, but instead intensely interested and sincerely sympathetic. It is hardly necessary to name them all, but I may say that they included Sir William Brenton, whose excavations in the Trode excited most of the world in their day. As we all took the train for Manchester, I felt myself poised on the brink of frightful revelations, a sensation symbolized by the air of mourning among the many Americans at the unexpected death of the President on the other side of the world. On the evening of August 7th, we reached Exham Priory, where the servants assured me that nothing unusual had occurred. The cats, even old Jiggaman, had been perfectly placid, and not a trap in the house had been sprung. We were to begin exploring on the following day, awaiting which I assigned well-appointed rooms to all my guests. I myself retired in my own tower chamber, with Jiggaman across my feet. Sleep came quickly, but hideous dreams assailed me. There was a vision of a Roman feast like that of the Trimalchio, with a horror and a covered platter. Then came that damnable recurring thing about the swineherd and his filthy drove in the twilit grotto. Yet when I awoke, it was full of daylight, with normal sounds in the house below. The rats, living or spectral, had not troubled me, and Jiggaman was quietly asleep. On going down, I found that the same tranquility had prevailed elsewhere, a condition which one of the assembled savants, a fellow named Thornton, devoted to the psychic, rather absurdly laid to the fact that I had now been shown the thing which certain forces had wished to show me. From the Rats in the Walls, H.P. Lovecraft. All was now ready, and at 11 a.m. our entire group of 7 men, bearing powerful electric searchlights and implements of excavation, went down to the subcellar and bolted the door behind us. Jiggaman was with us, for the investigators found no occasion to despise his excitability, and were indeed anxious that he be present in case of obscure rodent manifestations. We noted the Roman inscriptions and unknown altar designs only briefly, for 3 of the savants had already seen them and all knew their characteristics. Prime attention was paid to the momentous central altar, and within an hour Sir William Brenton had caused it to tilt backward, balanced by some unknown species of counterweight. There now lay revealed such a horror as would have overwhelmed us had we not been prepared. Through a nearly square opening in the tiled floor, sprawling on a flight of stone steps so prodigiously worn that it was little more than an inclined plane at the center, was a ghastly array of human or semi-human bones, those which retained their collocation as skeletons, showed attitudes of panic, fear, and all were the marks of overall were the marks of rodent gnawing. The skulls denoted nothing short of utter idiocy, cretinism, or primitive semi-apedom. Above the hellishly littered steps arched a descending passage, seemingly chiseled from the solid rock and conducting a current of air. This current was not a sudden and noxious rush as from a closed vault, but a cool breeze with something of freshness in it. We did not pause long, but shiveringly began to clear a passage down the steps. It was then that Sir William, examining the hewn walls, made the odd observation that the passage, according to the direction of the strokes, must have been chiseled from beneath. The Rats in the Walls, H.P. Lovecraft. I must be very deliberate now
and choose my words. After plowing down a few steps amidst the gnawed bones, we saw that there was a light ahead, not any mystic phosphorescence, but a filtered daylight which could not come except from unknown fissures in the cliff that overlooked the waste valley. That such fissures had escaped notice from outside was hardly remarkable, for not only is the valley wholly uninhabited, but the cliff is so high and beetling that only an aeronaut could study its face in detail. A few steps more and our breaths were literally snatched from us by what we saw. So literally that Thornton, the psychic investigator, actually fainted in the arms of the dazed man who stood behind him. Norris, his plump face utterly white and flabby, simply cried out inarticulately, whilst I think that what I did was to gasp or hiss and cover my eyes. The man behind me, the only one of the party older than I, croaked the hackneyed, "My God," in the most cracked voice I ever heard. Of 7 cultivated men, only Sir William Brenton retained his composure. A thing more to his credit, because he led the party and must have seen the sight first. It was a twilight grotto of enormous height, stretching away farther than any eye could see. A subterraneous world of limitless mystery and horrible suggestion. There were buildings and other architectural remains. In one terrified glance, I saw a weird pattern of tumuli, a savage circle of monoliths, a low, domed Roman ruin, a sprawling Saxon pile, and an early English edifice of wood. But all these were dwarfed by the ghoulish spectacle presented by the general surface of the ground. For yards about the steps extended an insane tangle of human bones, or bones at least as human as those on the steps. Like a foamy sea they stretched, some fallen apart, but others wholly or partly articulated, as skeletons. These latter invariably in postures of demoniac frenzy, either fighting off some menace or clutching other forms with cannibal intent. From The Rats in the Walls, H.P. Lovecraft. When Dr. Trask, the anthropologist, stooped to classify the skulls, he found a degraded mixture which utterly baffled him. They were mostly lower than the Piltdown Man in the scale of evolution, but in every case, definitely human. Many were of higher grade, and a very few were the skulls of supremely and sensitively developed types. All the bones were gnawed, mostly by rats, but somewhat by others of the half-human drove. Mixed with them were many tiny bones of rats, fallen members of the lethal army which closed the ancient epic. I wonder that any man among us lived and kept his sanity through that hideous day of discovery. Not Hoffman or Heisman's could conceive a scene more wildly incredible, more frenetically repellent, or more gothically grotesque than the twilight grotto through which we 7 staggered, each stumbling on revelation after revelation and trying to keep for the nonce from thinking of the events which must have taken place there 300 years or 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 years ago. It was the antechamber of hell, and poor Thornton fainted again when Trask told him that some of the skeleton things must have descended as quadrupeds through the last 20 or more generations. Horror piled on horrors began to interpret the architectural remains. The quadruped things, with their occasional recruits from the bipedal class, had been kept in stone pens, out of which they must have broken in their last delirium of hunger or rat fear. There had been great herds of them,
evidently fattened on the coarse vegetables whose remains could be found as a sort of poisonous ensilage at the bottom of a huge stone bins, older than Rome. I knew now why my ancestors had had such excessive gardens. Would to heaven I could forget the purpose of the herds. I did not have to ask. Sir William, standing with his searchlight in the Roman ruin, translated aloud the most shocking ritual I have ever known, and told of the diet of the antediluvian cult which the priests of Sybil found and mingled with their own. Norris, used as he was to the trenches, could not walk straight when he came out of the English building. It was a butcher shop and kitchen. He had expected that. But it was too much to see familiar English implements in such a place, and to read familiar English graffiti there, some as recent as 1610. I could not go in that building whose demon activities were stopped only by the dagger of my ancestor Walter de la Poor. What I did venture to enter was the low Saxon building whose oaken door had fallen, and there I found a terrible row of 10 stone cells with rusty bars. 3 had tenants, all skeletons of high grade, and on the bony forefinger of one I found a seal ring with my own coat of arms. Sir William found a vault with far older cells below the Roman chapel, but these cells were empty. Below them was a low crypt with cases of formally arranged bones, some of them bearing terrible parallel inscriptions carved in Latin, Greek, and the tongue of Phrygia. Meanwhile, Dr. Trask had opened one of the prehistoric tumuli and brought to light skulls, which were slightly more human than a gorilla's, and which bore indescribable ideographic carvings. Through all this horror, my cat stalked unperturbed. Once I saw him monstrously perched atop a mountain of bones, and wondered at the secrets that might lie behind his yellow eyes. The Rats in the Walls, H.P. Lovecraft. Having grasped to some slight degree the frightful revelations of this twilight area, an area so hideously foreshadowed by my recurrent dream, we turned to that apparently boundless depth of midnight cavern where no ray of light from the cliff could penetrate. We shall never know what sightless Stygian worlds yawn beyond the little distance we went, for it was decided that such secrets are not good for mankind. But there was plenty to engross us close at hand, for we had not gone far before the searchlight showed that accursed infinity of pits in which the rats had feasted, and whose sudden lack of replenishment had driven the ravenous rodent army first to turn on the living herds of starving things, and then to burst forth from the priory in that historic orgy of devastation which the peasants will never forget. God, those carrion black pits of sawed, picked bones and open skulls. Those nightmare chasms choked with the pithecanthropoid Celtic, Roman, and English bones of countless unhallowed centuries. Some of them were full, and none can say how deep they had once been. Others were still bottomless to our searchlights, and peopled by unnameable fancies. What I thought of the helpless rats that stumbled into such traps amidst the blackness of their quest in this grisly Tartarus. Once my foot slipped near a horribly yawning brink, and I had a moment of ecstatic fear. I must have been musing a long time, for I could not see any of the party but the plump Captain Norris. Then there came a sound from that inky, boundless, farther distance that I thought I knew, and I saw my old black cat dart past me like a winged Egyptian god, straight into the illimitable gulf of the unknown. But I was not far behind, for there was no doubt after another second. It was the eldritch scurrying of those fiend-born rats, always questing for new horrors, and determined to lead me on even unto those grinning caverns of Earth's center, where Nyarlathotep, the mad, faceless god, howls blindly to the piping of two amorphous idiot flute players. My searchlight expired, but still I ran. I heard voices and yowls and echoes, but above all there gently rose that impious, insidious scurrying. Gently rising as a stiff, bloated corpse gently rises above an oily river that flows under endless onyx bridges to a black, putrid sea. Something bumped into me. Something soft and plump. It must have been the rats, the viscous, gelatinous, ravenous army that feast on the dead and the living. Why shouldn't rats eat a de la poor as a de la poor eats forbidden things? The war ate my boy, damn them all. And the Yanks ate Carfax with flames and burnt grandsire de la poor and the secret. No. No, I tell you. I am not that demon swineherd in the Twilight Grotto. It was not Edward Norris's fat face on that flabby fungus thing. Who says I am a de la poor? He lived, but my boy died. Shall a Norris hold the lands of a de la poor? It's voodoo, I tell you. That spotted snake. Curse you, Thornton. I'll teach you to faint at what my family do. Sblood, thou stinkard. I'll learn ye how to gust. Would ye swink me, thinkwits? Magna Mater, Artis! Dia Adagai Dagawanan, August Bosch Bonokat, Donos is Dolasort August Letza! That is what they say I said when they found me in the blackness after 3 hours. Found me in the blackness, crouching over the plump, half-eaten body of Captain Norris, with my own cat leaping and tearing at my throat. Now they have blown up Exham Priory, taken my Jiggaman away from me, and shut me into this barred room in Honwell, with fearful whispers about my heredity and experiences. Thornton is in the next room, but they prevent me from talking to him. They are trying, too, to suppress most of the facts concerning the Priory. When I speak of poor Norris, they accuse me of a hideous thing. But they must know that I did not do it. They must know it was the rats. The slithering, scurrying rats, whose scampering will never let me sleep. The demon rats that race behind the padding in this room and beckon me down to greater horrors than I have ever known. The rats they can never hear. The rats. The rats in the walls.